I'm very stoned right now and doing this fine. Like, so imagine the amount of weed it would take for me to be like, I need to stay home.
What's going on, guys? I'm Speedy, and this is 360 with Speedy Morman, and today I'm joined by a very acclaimed actor, producer, writer, artist, but most notably known as the BC improv champion.
It's true.
Seth Rogen is in the building. Seth, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks
I'm good.
For coming.
Thank you so much for having us. I can't help but look at all of this beautiful art that's not only here on the wall, but all over this place. This is the Houseplant crib, or the Houseplant house. I don't know what you call it, but where are we at?
We call it the Houseplant house. It's like the headquarters of our company, Houseplant, that sells weed in California. We make ashtrays and lighters and things for people who smoke weed, like me. And we have a house, and a lot of our stuff is made to go in a house. So we thought having a house would be a good way to work on the ideas and be inspired. And we have meetings here, and we have parties and stuff like that here, and conduct interviews from here, store our gigantic ashtray collection here. And our movie offices are literally right next door. So
amazing. It seems just like a Swiss Army knife of sorts.
It really is.
Listen, you pay the rent here, so anything you want to do.
We can do whatever we want.
I want to talk more about Houseplant and your art a little bit later, but let's go to the beginning for a second. The days of Camp Miriam, all the way to here now. What's the journey been like?
It's been amazing. I'm still friends with a lot of the people I grew up with. I mean, my partner Evan, who I work with, I've known since I was 12 years old, and I met him bar mitzvah class, and he's one of the people I founded this company with as well. And it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm very grateful. And I think young me would be thrilled to see what very old me is doing now, for the most part.
There have got to be things along the way that I'm sure surprise even you. You know, maybe they're accolades or accomplishments, but one that I always thought was interesting was, you used to buy CDs at A&B Sound.
I sure did.
And now you have a song featuring Beyonce produced by Pharrell Williams.
I do.
How the heck did we end up there?
How did we end up there? Where are you from originally?
I'm from New York.
Okay, you've really done your BC research as far as A&B Sound goes. I am featured on a Beyonce song. I don't see royalties from that. If there's,
I was going to ask what that check is.
It just occurred to me now. I probably signed a thing without knowing it that I gave her all the rights to all that, as I should have. But I'm featured on a Beyonce song. I recorded with Pharrell Williams. I'm not a good singer. That was actually not a fun experience for me. Was recording. I was struggling to sing Hakuna Matata. And Jon Favreau is the director of that film, and I'm good friends with him. I've actually known him since I was 18 years old. And he's like, "You're struggling with the song," and I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'm going to bring in someone to help you with the singing." I'm like, "Oh, that'd be great, like a vocal coach or something like that." And he's like, "No, Pharrell." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't want that. I'd rather have just like some dude from Encino who's like calling me for vocal coaching lessons." And and I had a very weird day with Pharrell, where Pharrell's a pretty zen figure. So like, imagine Pharrell as frustrated as you could imagine Pharrell being, which is still like, I would say like a 0 for most people. But he was truly struggling to find a way to make me sing properly. And it seemed like, in general, he came in very confident he'd be able to do it, and by the end, you could see I stumped him a little bit.
Wow, that's a bucket list item for sure.
Yeah.
You and Nathan Fielder went to high school together. Mm-hmm. Was he always the Nathan Fielder that we see today?
He was. I also went to elementary school. I think I might have gone to kindergarten with Nathan. That's he's always been funny. We were on the improv team together. We were on the BC improv team together. We didn't actually we won the BC championships, and then we lost in the nationals. But still, we did pretty well, I think. He was always funny, very funny. I always thought he was the funniest guy on the improv team, and what he's gone on to do is, it's not surprising that he did it, but it's I am surprised. Like, I'm surprised anyone makes something that's like completely genius. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's truly brilliant what he does. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I'm shocked that anyone was able to conceive of what he does, and that has the level of commitment to actually see it through, which he does.
His show, the rehearsal, has kind of spawned conversation around comedy, as
Yeah.
have some other instances that have happened in the comedy space, i.e. Chris Rock and Will Smith at the awards,
Yeah.
and Dave Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl. I'm wondering, in your opinion, as someone with a rich history in comedy, is there a line in the sand that needs to be drawn, or is comedy just free reign?
I think you shouldn't hit comedians.
Yeah.
That's a line in the sand I would draw, is don't hit comedians for jokes. I think, I'm not one of these comedians who thinks that there's like a cultural war on comedy and a cultural war on comedians. I think that like anything, you can say whatever you want and people can react to it. As someone I'm one of the few people who actually like made a thing that was actually truly controversial to the point that like it almost wasn't released, and it was actually almost like destroyed by the powers that be, and when I see people tell jokes and people get upset about that joke, so then it creates a conversation about how maybe people didn't like that joke, but the comedian still keeps talking and telling jokes and keeps having shows and people still go to those shows. That to me is like what it's like to be a comedian. You tell jokes, a lot of people like them, some people don't like them, sometimes those people are loud, sometimes they're not as loud. Ultimately, if you're funny, you can keep being a comedian.
Yeah.
And that's really all people care about. And, I'm a big fan of like Anthony Jeselnik, who tells incredibly offensive jokes by design, and he keeps going because he's funny. No one cares. You know what I mean? I think if you break the law, then people care. And if you are charged with crimes of a dubious nature, then that will affect your comedic persona. But I think very few people, if anyone, have ever actually had their career hurt or damaged, I would argue, from like a joke.
Yes.
And therefore, I think that comedy is fine. And as long as you're funny, then you're good.
As long as you're funny, then you're good.
I
Easy
think
enough.
so, yeah.
I've heard a theory you said once that you can't smoke weed all the time and be late.
No.
Tell me more about this theory.
I am very punctual. And one of the reasons I'm punctual is because I smoke weed all the time. And I know the first thing people will say to criticize maybe why one shouldn't smoke weed all the time is that it might affect things like their punctuality. And I think the first interaction people have with me often is they meet me on time, and it instantly is dispelling some of the myths they might have about people who smoke weed all the time. And so I just try to be punctual. And I'm an actor, and that's the thing as an actor, is you really have to be punctual. Like call times, the whole set, hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of dollars are based on your arrival, and you simply can't be late. And I've been an actor since I was 16 years old, basically, and I learned very early, the first day of Freaks and Geeks, there was a table read that I was like 45 minutes late for. And I was almost fired, literally. And ever since then, it was my first professional experience as an actor, by far the biggest opportunity I had, and I literally have never been late since then.
You almost fumbled it day one.
Yeah.
And have never almost fumbled since then. Yeah. It's really frustrating that there are some people whose like entire personalities is built around this idea of being late. Like, oh, I'm always late. And,
yeah.
I'm never on time. Ha ha ha.
I hate that shit. My
But
writing
it's not
partner,
funny at
Evan,
all.
my partner used to be late all the time, and I had to really explain to him how disrespectful it was and how terrible it was and how he just couldn't do it. And it's something I'm constantly, to this day, explaining to people the importance of punctuality.
Yeah. Well, let the record show you were perfectly on time.
I was at
today.
11:01.
Perfectly on
Rolling
time.
in.
Weed is something that's so obviously integral to your personal brand and now professional brands with Houseplant and stuff. But I'm wondering, when is the last day that you smoked no weed?
The last day I smoked no weed, probably when I was in fucking Singapore or South Korea or something like that. Honestly, in 20, 11 maybe was the last day I
So
smoked
over a
weed.
decade, there hasn't been a single day where you haven't.
Yeah, when
at
I
least
went
had
and promoted the Green Hornet, the guy who played Kato, this guy Jay Chow, who's like a huge pop star in all over Asia, and he's from Taiwan, and we did an Asian press tour of the movie because of that, which never happens. So we went to Singapore and Korea and Tokyo and all these places, and you cannot smoke weed in a lot of those places. I remember I arrived in Singapore and they put a thing in your passport that's like, if we catch you with drugs, you'll be executed. And I was
Executed?
like, holy fuck,
shit.
yeah, like that's like a little thing they hand you. And I was like, dear God, that was some high stakes packing, because like often I'll arrive somewhere and I'll open the breast pocket or something and like there'll be a joint inside. And I'm like, oh my God, if I got fucking executed in Singapore because I left a roach in my fucking shirt pocket, that'd be a sad way to go.
Yeah.
But on brand.
But very on brand. The dramatic irony, to say the
Exactly.
least. On a more serious note, that we're seeing a situation almost identical to what you're explaining play out right now with WNBA star Brittney Griner,
Yeah.
who's in Russia over some oil and was sentenced to years over there. When you see things like that happen over something like weed or like
Yeah.
a weed oil, which to us, as we know, is harmless.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind?
It shows how backwards most of the world and a lot of America's thinking on weed still is, how antiquated it is, how it is just used as a tool of imprisonment, you know, almost primarily persecution. And honestly, like, I'm at the point in my life where I essentially won't go to a country where weed is that illegal anymore. I do not, I love to smoke weed. I am terrified I'll wind up in some institution in some foreign land. And yeah, like I'm too scared to, I was talking to Snoop recently and he was in a similar place where he was like, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, even the UK, he's like, I don't think it's worth it anymore.
As a Canadian
Yeah.
looking into the status of, you know, the legalization of weed in America, and also at the same time the incarceration of like black and brown people.
Yeah.
When there are people like you who can sell weed and have no issue, but there are people still locked up right now for selling weed, what goes through your mind?
I mean, it shows how the terrible state of American laws and the legal system of America. It makes me feel a great responsibility to constantly talk about it and acknowledge it, and we financially support a lot of organizations and expungement organizations that, directly, I was literally, screaming at Chuck Schumer last week about how they have to do much, much more to progress this agenda and to acknowledge just that it's 100% racist. That's the only reason weed is illegal, period. Because of racism. And I think even a lot of politicians, what I found, who consider themselves to be progressive, simply don't understand that fact. And simply don't understand that everything that they have digested about weed and all of their beliefs about weed are based on like the lies of racist men. And it simply is how it is. And I've seen it on their faces, and you start to explain to them, like, why do you think it's illegal? What do you think it is that did this? Go look up about Harry Anslinger and go look at these, like, the specific war, how the war on drugs was specifically using weed to imprison people, you know? And if you just, if you take something that pretty much everyone does and you make it illegal and you only arrest one small group of people for doing that thing, it becomes a very effective tool, you know? And I think I've seen it. A lot of the politicians who very much would call themselves progressive on weed truly don't understand that it is all based on racism. It's not based on science. It's much healthier than alcohol.
Yeah.
So there's like a massive logic gap there as well that's infuriating, because like alcohol is so culturally acceptable. It kills hundreds of thousands of people a year, drunk driving accidents, heart disease, a slew of different types of terrible diseases that are all stemming from like a regular use of alcohol. It's completely culturally acceptable. No one gives a shit about it. It's available everywhere.
Anywhere you want.
And even in the states where weed is available, it's so much harder to get than alcohol.
Yeah.
It's not available in stores, regular stores. It's not at Ralph's. It's not at fucking Whole Foods. Like, it's you have to go to a specific place to get it. It's so hard to get. All of it has to go through an insane amount of regulation. You can eat weed, and it doesn't do anything bad to you. If you drink a beer, as a child, it's terrible. But like, look at the amount of regulations that a jar of weed has to go through in comparison to a can of beer.
Yeah.
You know, which could actually hurt someone. It drives me insane, and it truly is illogical. It's one of the 500 million illogical things about America. Luckily, some states. I mean, I think the longer I live here, it really does feel like every state is like its own little country kind of.
Is.
And some states are much better with it than others, but even those states are nowhere near where they should be. You
Facts.
know? Yeah.
Damn, that was so well put. So everyone just learned something, I think, with that answer. So thank you for that. Talk to me about this very iconic photo of you, Snoop, and Wiz with your signature cross blunt. Can you paint the picture for us? What was that scene like? Where were you at and what was happening?
Oh yeah, I was. Snoop had a cooking show with Martha Stewart, I want to say.
Yep.
And you were paired up with a guest if you cooked against them, or it was something like that. All I remember is that it was, and my memory is foggy of that day, you know. And I smoke weed all day, every day. So for there to be like a moment where weed has like affected my memory or day in any real capacity, it's like, you know, it stands out to me. And so we did the cooking show with Martha and Wiz and Snoop, and then there was kind of a moment where I feel like me and Snoop and Wiz looked at each other and we were like, we should probably all go smoke an insane amount of weed together now. It feels like what's appropriate. And almost often when I'm with Snoop, he likes me to roll him a cross joint because he's just fascinated by them and thinks they're fun, and they are genuinely hard to roll. And he probably doesn't know that many people that can just produce them with the speed that I can. And so he demanded I roll several cross joints, and and we smoked a ton of weed in this small trailer for maybe an hour. And it was so fun and crazy. And I think there was a moment where we all looked at each other. We were like, we're all guys who smoke a lot of weed, and I am much higher than normal right now.
And then the selfie was such a moment too, because that's the moment that made everyone feel like they were a part of it.
Yeah.
Was there any science to the angle there, or was it just fuck it, let's get this?
It was just, let's just do it. It was we were just doing it. It was a good time. I love those guys. That was truly hilarious. A few times since then I've seen Snoop and smoked so much weed that it's like I'll have to like cancel my afternoon plans, which is like I'm very stoned right now and doing this fine. Like, so imagine the amount of weed it would take for me to be like, I need to stay home. I'm conducting a televised interview.
What is the most iconic hip hop cypher that you've been a part of?
Oh man.
Or maybe just a smoke session with a one-on-one situation.
There's been, I mean, it's like one of those things where like, truly, and I really try to appreciate it, and it is those times in your life where you're like, if young me could see what I was getting to do now, they would be so thrilled about it, you know? I mean, smoking with Snoop every time is like truly a thrill, you know? I was, maybe 12 or 13 years old when Doggy Style came out, and I was obsessed with it and would listen to it all the time. I've gotten to smoke weed with many of the members of the Wu-Tang Clan on many different occasions. Once I got to smoke weed with Method Man while he was just like reading raps off his phone that he had written, just literally standing in a parking lot, rapping to me as we smoked weed for like 45 minutes or something like that. It was truly one of the greatest things of my life. Obviously, I made a whole movie with RZA, so I got to smoke weed with him several times. It's
you and Travis smoked together.
I smoked weed with Travis Scott a couple times. Yeah, that's always been, that's fun. The younger guys, it's fun, but it doesn't, for me, honestly, have the novelty that it does when it's the people like I grew up loving and listening to and shit like that. And anytime I get to be around, those types of rappers, and performers, it's a fucking thrill for me. Jay-Z.
You smoked with Jay-Z?
Maybe one hit.
Where were you? I mean, now he has his own strain, monogram.
Yeah.
Excuse me. How did the Jay-Z?
I was at a party he was at, and I was smoking weed with my wife, and he came over. And he smoked a little bit of weed with us.
Epic.
Yeah, it was great.
Did he provide the blunt, or did you?
It was my weed.
And he hit it. Wow, legendary.
Yeah. I know, it was crazy.
What is the as a non-smoker trying to learn weed etiquette, what is the proper way to turn someone down? I imagine when people say, yo, Seth, yo, can I hit? Like, I'm sure that happens all the fucking time.
What I do is I keep a pocket full of joints at all times on me, and if there's someone who comes up to me I don't want to smoke weed with, I just give them a joint.
Wow.
And I'm like,
and that's on me. Enjoy.
Have it. And they're thrilled, and they're psyched, and if they get a whole joint, and I don't have to smoke weed with this
stranger person. Brilliant.
I've done that a lot, and it works. It's a win-win-win situation.
It's like in case of emergency, break glass.
Yes,
blunt.
exactly. I usually, if I know I'm going out with there's people, I'll have like 6 joints in my pocket, knowing
for that
I
purpose?
might literally, yes.
So you roll those blunts with the purpose of giving them to people that you don't want to smoke.
If I don't give them out, I will smoke them, but I roll more than I need often, knowing I will be wanting to give a few away to get rid of people.
When you were
not to say if I give you a joint, I'm trying to get rid of you. There are also people I'm just giving joints to out of pure friendliness and love. Yeah.
You posted a video on Twitter the other day promoting some new Houseplant products that you have coming out.
Yeah.
And you rolled a joint in that video.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you saw the discourse surrounding that video, but people were fucking. They didn't even know how you could have possibly rolled a joint that quickly.
Yeah, I can roll joints real fast.
Which I thought was the least impressive part of that video. But it seems like everybody else was like, how the hell did he do that? When you see people impressed by such a minimal skill of yours, I imagine, what do you feel? I'm sure you can
I don't consider it a minimal skill. I am good at rolling joints.
I don't mean it in that regard. I mean, like, you could probably roll even faster than that.
Yeah,
So
probably a little
people
bit.
were
I wasn't
impressed.
trying to roll particularly fast, but it is a skill, and and one that I am proud of, and I honestly appreciate it when people notice that I'm good at it, because I for sure live a life where I feel that I wish people appreciated me more. But no, all jokes aside, I genuinely like it when people notice it, because I know those people must smoke a lot of weed and roll a lot of joints. And it's the kind of thing where, like, unless you're a chef, sometimes you don't know how impressive someone's like chopping skills are. You know what I mean? So like, every time I see someone notice it, I'm like, oh, they must roll a lot of joints, because they can appreciate it.
Yeah.
How fast I'm doing this.
I thought
I waste no movement. That is the key. I have it down so every gesture is moving the process forward, and there's not one gesture wasted, basically. Like, pick up the weed, put the weed in, roll the weed, lick the weed, seal the joint, twist the joint, stick in the filter. It's like, that's how many steps it takes, and that's how many moves I can do it in.
Very impressive, nonetheless. I've heard you once say that you've had so many bad experiences meeting celebrities that if you're genuinely a fan of someone, you'd rather just not meet them.
Sometimes, yeah.
Is there someone that comes to mind who you don't want to meet, just in case? Like someone that you're such a big fan of that you're like, you know what, I'd just rather not.
There's been people where I've seen where they're like, you want to go meet this person? A few times. I feel like Martin Scorsese was one. Jonah, I feel like we were somewhere. He's like, you want to go meet Martin Scorsese? I was like, no.
Absolutely not.
I don't need to. I'm good. Like, because another time, someone was like, you want to go meet the Coen brothers? I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And like, they could not have given less of a fuck about meeting me. Not that they should have, but it was one of those moments where I'm just like, oh, I wish I hadn't done this. Like, my life would be 1% better if I had said no. I didn't want to meet the Coen brothers, because I wouldn't be standing here right now being blown off by the Coen brothers. And if I could choose, I'd rather not have that happen ultimately. So yeah, there's a few people. Yeah, lots of people. Scorsese, I don't need to meet him. You know, who else is out there? Lots of Francis Ford Coppola. If someone's like, Francis Ford Coppola's over there, I'd be like, I'm good.
I'd rather.
I'm thrilled he's over there. His Apocalypse Now, literally one of my favorite movies of all time. Let him be over there.
One thing that people notice, or that I at least notice, and is no secret, is that you run in similar circles when it comes to the films that you make or the TV shows. You know, you've been writing with your partner for a while. Mm-hmm. You star in a lot of the same movies. You star in the same movies as a lot of friends that you've done past work with. Why is that important beyond just Hollywood, but to have that sense of loyalty and create with people that you trust?
I mean, a few reasons. Like, honestly, like, they're good people who I enjoy spending time with. That's very important. And they're people that I genuinely think I do good work with, you know? And I would think it's like playing music or something. Like when you find someone you play well with, you're like, oh, like this is good. Like we should keep doing this. This sounds good. You know, it sounds better than when we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's like. And you start to really get good at like identifying and valuing those relationships because you're like, and everyone does, and you're like, oh, like we play well together. And then a fun becomes of like, who else can we add to this? Like, I know I play well with this person. I know I play well with this person. What if we all do a thing together? That could be fun. And and honestly, like I've had this conversation with like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I work very well with, but honestly, like we personally do not have a ton in common, and we don't hang out socially that often. But whenever we work together, it's a blast. We do great work. We talk all day on set, but a lot of these relationships, honestly, are people that I work great with and get along really great with, and I think we also have some sense that like, the work is the thing that really brings us together and that we spend our time doing. And we shouldn't take it as an indicator that we should like also go on vacation together. We should just keep working together, you know? And it's fun and it does good work. And I think when you're people like me and a lot of my friends, when like truly like doing good work is very important to you.
Yeah.
And like, you know, your output being reflective of your sensibilities and your goals and the type of things you want to be putting out into the world is like truly something we spend so much time talking about and thinking about. And when you find people who have that same attitude towards the work, it's also something you really value, you know, and you're like, oh, you know, these performers, like, they want it to be as good as I do, and they want it to be as funny as I do, and they're trying as hard as I am, and they are asking for one more take because they thought of one more funny joke, and even though it is, you know, inconveniencing them maybe, it is bettering the project, you know, and when you find people like that, it's very rewarding, and it makes you feel good because you feel like you're doing the best work you can, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether a budget for a film or show is 20 million, or let's say movies, for example.
Yeah.
Whether the budget for a movie is 20 million or 200 million, a ticket to the theater costs the same amount.
Yeah.
$15.
I know. Weird product like in that way.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wondering now what you think the future of film and TV is with that in mind, as, you know, there's kind of the shift from going to the theater to streaming. Do you feel like streaming has maybe shrunk the baseline budget for film and TV, or is there a different problem and solve happening?
This is a complicated question that I can give you many answers for. I think there's been opportunities in television created that are really exciting and really remarkable from this new streaming like infrastructure, and because you know. The platform itself is the product for a lot of these companies, and which is a very important distinction to make, I think. Like movie studios, their product is movies. Netflix's product is Netflix. And their movies are incentive to subscribe to that product. But the product, if they could stop making movies and just have you download Netflix, they would. Movie studios can't do that. Movies, and I think because of that, there's a difference in attitude about movies at these streaming services than there is at movie studios, and I think there's a respect for movies in general at a lot of these kind of what I would call, you know, these like legacy studios that there isn't at these streaming services because their product is movies, and they have to be respectful to the filmmakers. They have to have good relationships with the filmmakers because of that, and they understand how that version of Hollywood works. And I think that version of Hollywood has weathered a lot of storms, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Like, I think the theater going experience is one that if it was gonna go away, I think it would have by now. Like when VHS could have killed it, cable could have killed it, HBO could have killed it, a million things could have killed it by now. Just like live concerts, like there's no substitution for being in a group full of people experiencing one like input together,
right? At the same time,
at the same time, and it creates like a communal experience that is, I think, addictive in some ways and something that people really like and gives them and is additive to people's lives in a way that not doing it, you are depriving yourself of something in a lot of ways, and I think that is true, and because of that there will always be movie theaters that show movies that people pay some probably uniform price to go see. That being said, Superbad had its 15th anniversary recently, and a conversation me and the people who made that movie were having was like, could this happen again? Could there be a $20 million comedy that has essentially no famous people in it, that is not based on any pre-existing IP or idea? Could that come out in theaters today, make, $200 million, become an actual like part of culture to the degree that 15 years later, like I still have 18-year-old, I see kids wearing McLovin shirts like every day as I walk down the street. Like it is truly like entrenched itself in popular culture. And that's something that I think will happen again, but right now, it's hard. And Hollywood has trends. Like we could be if we were talking in the 50s, you'd be sitting here being like, are they ever going to make a movie that's not a Western? Like, how come they only make Westerns? Will we ever break out of this Western trend? Will movies that are not Westerns ever do well again? And like, it seems so silly now, but that's how it is. So I think these streaming services, I'm not sure what will happen with them, honestly. Like, I would equate them more to like VHS in some ways, where it's like, who knows what that'll do, but I do think there's this like thing of like studios making movies, putting those movies in theaters, people paying to go see those movies. That is how that financial system works. It's pretty simple, it's pretty clear. I truly think that will never go away.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
When people meet rappers, they tend to want to rap for them on the street. Is there some sort of actor equivalent to that?
Some people give you like they're like a short film or something like that. They will just try to be funny to you, which is maybe even
people
worse.
Ever just break into like scene?
A monologue? No, I don't think that's ever actually happened to me. I've had people recite my own scenes for me. Once, great rapper story. To be the other way around. Once I used to work out with the same personal trainer as Kanye West, and my session was right before his, and he showed up like 20 minutes early. And it's like a room like this, like with gym equipment in it. It was in a guy's garage essentially. And for 20 minutes, I worked out with a trainer as Kanye literally just stood right next to me reciting scenes from Superbad word for word. And I worked with Eminem once, and he's like, I know the entire movie Superbad word for word, literally. He's like, I could recite you the entire movie. And then he's like started doing it to prove it. It's like that's actually happened to me a few times by rappers.
Wow. Wait, so mid workout, does Kanye reciting these lyrics inspire you to lift heavier and do an extra rep?
Inspired me to work out faster.
Let's get through these sets a little faster now. You have to certainly reach a significant level of fame to get a wax figure done of you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Certainly reached that. But your wax figure is interesting because you're wearing a tuxedo, standing in a room with the Mona Lisa on the wall behind you. Is there any particular reason why that?
No, and I didn't like approve. That wasn't like, I'm not a part of that.
Wait, they didn't come to you like, hey, we're making a...
No, literally, I started getting tagged in these crazy Instagram posts of people with me with a wax figure standing in front of the Mona Lisa. And I assumed it was some like, I thought it was in like some weird Eastern European, like off-brand, like ramshackle wax museum. But like, no, it's like a real wax museum. Like, yeah, I do not condone that. I don't like that.
For many years, you drive the Toyota Highlander.
I did.
I've heard, and now you've upgraded since to a Range Rover.
Yeah,
which both
it's much nicer.
which both though still feel very modest
Yeah.
for someone whose internet net worth is $80 million.
Yeah.
I guess my first question is that net worth figure accurate? And
No, that'd be amazing.
it's not. Okay,
I don't think so.
why those car choices?
I like a sport utility vehicle. I like to carry things around. I drove my pottery wheel here today, so that's essentially it. Yeah, I like a large. I'm a tall. I'm not humongous, but I'm tall enough that I like to sit upright. When I drive. Yeah, that was it.
How often do people think you're related to Joe Rogan?
I used to get it a lot, and my nephew's name is Joseph Rogan, which is also like that's not helping anything. But I think my name gets spelled Rogan more often than it gets spelled
Rogen.
Rogen. And Joe Rogan's ascension has not helped me.
Yeah. I imagine
My only
so.
hope is people are spelling his name Ian every once in a while, but I
Just
don't
to
think
even the
I don't
playing
think they are. Yeah.
I think I heard you once say you, when browsing the internet, discovered that there was a porno that was shot at your house.
Yeah.
What is the deal with that?
Yeah, I have like it's exactly what it sounds like. I bought a new house many years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, and there's like a pretty like distinctive water, like a little water fountain thing, and yeah, I was browsing pornography, and one of the thumbnails caught my eye because it very clearly had my water feature in it. and then once I moved into the house, and I actually got to know someone who lives in the neighborhood, and he's like, "Oh, you moved into that house?" And I was like, "Why? What's that house? What do they do there?" And he's like, "It was a porn house."
Wow. So it wasn't just a one-off.
I guess not.
It's
Yeah,
a culture.
I gotta find the series. Yeah, exactly.
Find the series. That's very fun. So here we are again in the Houseplant house, and your roots come from stand-up comedy. I'm wondering if there are any similarities, or maybe this is just a wild connection I'm trying to make. But are there similarities between stand-up comedy and ceramics?
I mean, to some degree, all art. I mean, and I've done a lot of things, and I write and direct and act and produce, and it's all the same. Which is, can you make the thing you want to make, and does it elicit the reaction you hoped it would elicit? And I think that is the same question that is asked, I think, of every creative person with every creative endeavor. So to that end, yeah, it's like telling a joke and having it get a laugh is no different than making an ashtray and having it function how you wanted it to and have people appreciate that. You know? Yeah.
It started almost as a passion project or a hobby prior to Houseplant becoming a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that as we all, and when I say we, I speak for the entirety of the internet.
Yes, good. I've got some bones to pick then.
When we watched your progression, it's particularly the early on entry point, I guess, of you making ceramics,
Yeah.
I felt this weird sense of like pride in
thanks.
watching you like get better at
Watching
this.
your kid learn to walk slowly. Yeah.
Did you feel particularly me and my sense of pride?
I did. Every time I posted something.
No, but did you honestly feel the internet proud of you in a weird way?
I did. I felt, well, what was interesting is I realized, and it's something as an adult I realized, is like how few adults try to learn new things. And really just like admit that they're going to try to learn a new thing that they know nothing about. If anything, we are a culture very oriented towards acting like you know more about things than you do, not admitting you know nothing about a thing and then slowly learning it. And that's exactly what I did. Is I started posting like the shittiest things imaginable, and I just showed people my progression. And I think, it's funny because a lot of people and friends come over, and I have a little pottery studio in my garage, and I teach people at times pottery, and you see how many adults are just like not geared towards learning things, and how they just don't want to pay attention, they don't want to listen. And then some people do, and they engage, and they do much better, you know? And I think people, if anything, that's how I interpret it, is people were happy to see someone just admit they didn't know a thing and then slowly put in time and energy towards learning that thing and getting better at it, you know, which, and it's also like, it's something anyone could do if they have the time and resources to join a pottery studio. Yeah.
What are the goals with Houseplant? Where do you want to take it?
I mean, I think weed becoming federally legal is a very important thing in America, and I think until there, is an acknowledgement that there was never any reason for weed to be illegal in the first place, we are still very much working still, and because of that, it does affect our business as well, because you can't cross state lines with weed, things like that, and so as far as weed goes, our future plans are very concentrated to California and being kind of very good and consistently, top of class here with that. But as far as our home goods go, thank God, ashtrays are legal across the country. And whether people are in states where they legally can smoke weed, they do. And I genuinely just hope that, we can be a voice of weed changing how it's viewed in our society in every level. And I think by making things that fit in people's homes nicely, you not only are allowing people to have things that they smoke weed with that reflect their taste and sensibility. I think you're also saying, like, this stuff deserves a place in your home. It's not illicit. It doesn't deserve to be in your drawer or under the coffee table. It deserves to be displayed. And the people who smoke it are not people who don't appreciate nice things, and are not people who live in shitholes. They're people who have normal houses and normal apartments and have kids and families and jobs and are productive members of society. And just like those people have wine glasses and martini shakers and corkscrews, they could have nice ashtrays and lighters and things like that, it's funny. With our movies and our film business, it's like I look very close into the immediate future, and I hope that allows us to keep growing and growing and growing. But mostly, what I'm focused on is we just need to keep making these products that speak to people, that speak to my sensibilities, that speak to our whole team's sensibilities, that people seem to appreciate, and keep focusing on quality, making sure that when people get the products, they're thrilled with them, that they surpass their expectations for the things that they're buying and spending their money on. And honestly, to me, that's like the most important thing for the time being.
Word. Well, lastly here, the Seth Originals is what everybody seems to want, but it's very difficult in order to get your hands on one. But you guys are doing a giveaway of sorts now to give people the opportunity to get their hands on one. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing? Yeah,
I made 4 vases that if you just go to our website and sign up to enter, you can enter a draw to win my handmade original vases for free. I really have not known what to do with them. And I have a lot of them, and people want them. And I've given some of them to charity, and they auction off for tens of thousands of dollars, which is great for the charities, but not something that I feel comfortable just selling them to people for tens of thousands of dollars. I also don't want only rich people to have them. That doesn't seem right at all. And so we came up with this. It was a way, they're free. They're literally free, and it's a completely democratized system based on luck, and whoever wins them, wins them. And I have tons more vases that I've made, and if this goes well, I hope to keep doing it. And I think it's a cool way to get them into people's hands, and if people ask me, how can I get one of your vases, I hope to have an answer, or I say, you just sign up for one of these draws. We do them all the time, and you can get a vase, but it all depends on how this first one goes. So if people sign up, then we'll keep doing it.
I think we actually have them right here.
Yeah.
If we want to take
Here's some.
This is 3 of the 4 that you.
Here's 4 of the 4. Okay. This one's little.
And you have a very particular style here. It's a gloop glaze. Is that what we call it?
That is what I call it. It's a gloop glaze. Yeah, It's a texture I had seen here or there and was really fascinated by it. You can't buy it commercially. Like, if you go to a glaze shop and buy glazes, they don't offer gloopy glazes. And if you go to a pottery studio, they won't even let you fire it probably because it's very temperamental and destroys kilns. But I was like obsessed with this textural idea. And so I took a glaze making workshop online where they teach you glaze chemistry. And I learned how to make my own glazes, and I formulated a recipe to make this glaze.
Well, they look fire.
Thanks.
And so congrats on having a signature style.
Thanks. I got a little stamp on the bottom too.
Wow, damn, that's so hard. There it is, Seth, stamped on the bottom. And this comes on all of your originals.
This one might not have it, but I'll just like this isn't even. This is. I mean,
this one has it.
This one has it. This one might not. I'll sign it separately.
Okay. All right, Seth. Well, thank you so much. And,
no problem.
I appreciate you sitting down and having us here at the crib.
Yeah.
And good luck to all of those entering the competition to win one of these 4.
Nice.
Just know I've touched all 4 of them. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'm now a part of it as
Breathed
well.
in all of them. There's only one There's one cultural reference for pottery, period.
Ever.
And it's Ghost. It's me and Ghost.
Do you just have pounds and pounds of this?
I
at
have
the crib?
hundreds of pounds of clay. This guy comes in a truck and like drops
Dropped it off.
it. Yeah.
Swag.
The first thing you do is called centering the clay.
Whoa.
And it's all about getting the clay centered to start. And then once it's centered, you can make whatever you want, basically. And you know it's centered because, like, if it looks like it's not moving, kind of, as it's spinning,
Right.
and your hands aren't moving when they're on it,
Then it's like perfectly
then it means
symmetrical.
it's centered, yeah. I've been making a lot of urns lately, things with lids,
Urns, beautiful.
and that's been fascinating. I'm gonna make the urn that I'm put in after I die.
Are you actually?
It's a thought I've had.
Really?
Yeah. Why not?
You know, I was gonna say what a dark
How many people
thought.
get to do that?
I was gonna say how dark, but that's actually so beautiful.
It's kind of cool, isn't it?
You're making your next crib.
I'm making my final crib.
Yeah. This is very cathartic for me.
Yeah.
And I'm doing absolutely nothing but watching.
You know, once it's open, you make it taller.
Whoa. It's almost like you're pulling it up.
That's literally called pulling up.
Is it really?
It is.
I'm so smart.
And then you can do things like this. Like you choke it in, and that starts to give it that shape.
Like
Exactly. And then you kind of can flare it out and shape it a little bit like that.
Yeah.
And what's cool, though, is you can decide, I don't want to do that anymore.
Just change your mind.
What if I want to flare it out instead?
Whoa.
You can do that. What's crazy is I can probably turn this into a bowl if I wanted to.
Oh shit.
And then a thing that you do, if you want to be a good ceramicist, is you take something like this, you cut it in half to see how even your walls are, to see if you did a good job or not.
Whoa.
See, what this shows is like, I could have kept pulling up on the bottom a little bit. Like, and you trim
I
a lot
see.
of this away after the fact.
Right.
And sometimes you need it to support a structure, but you kind of want the inside shape to match the outside shape.
Got it.
But yeah, overall not too bad.
Wow. Holy shit. That was so impressive, bro. Thank you for that experience. I'm so honored to have seen this happen in real life.